This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping the headlines. I'm Ahmed Dawood with Abdul Karim Hanif and the amazing Rania Saadi. And we have a lot of headlines to talk about this morning. First of all, to all of you from the United States, I hope you've had an enjoyable 4th of July celebration. We have a number of special segments prepared for you this hour. We also have a discussion here on some of the bigger headlines. In fact, this morning, had a pretty surprise announcement on Twitter. Hip-hop mogul Kanye West saying he's running for president. What is going on in this world, Rania?
I know, right? I love Kanye West. Do you like him?
I'm a fan of his music.
Yeah? Do you see him in politics?
We will talk all about that in the segment because he's made a lot of statements over the years. He's been, in fact, increasingly political, so that'll be an interesting segment for us to have.
Yeah.
But also big news for Sharjah residents.
Yes, absolutely. Certain residents of Sharjah Emirate will be tested for COVID-19 for free starting today. So you got to stay tuned because we will discuss which groups we are talking about. Maybe you are one of those people who could be tested for free for COVID-19, how long this campaign will be, and what it really entails. So just stay tuned.
I think I might need some sunglasses because it is very, very bright at where I'm looking at, and it's because everyone can see us now. It is the fact that Rania...
You're lying, my mouth is closed.
Rania needs to hide her bright and shiny teeth.
I'm going to close my mouth.
No, it's just too bright. I can't see. Well, this is the Morning Majlis. Thank you for joining us, all of you, on our YouTube pages. A live stream on YouTube as well. We are going to be talking all things US July 4th Independence Day celebrations, because we did have a very important discussion with His Excellency Philip Frayne, the US Consul General in the United States. But we've all talked about the world of travel. We've eased of restrictions when it comes to booking your holidays from the United Arab Emirates. We've talked about that, and there's so much more to look forward to in the morning on the Morning Majlis. So if you'd like to get involved on the text lines 4215, you can do so, and also DM us on Pulse 95 Radio. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. This is the Morning Majlis.
The Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Majlis. And the UAE has issued new travel guidelines. In fact, represented by the National Emergency Crisis and Disasters Management Authorities, UAE residents and citizens can now travel abroad if they adhere to precautions and measures imposed to fight COVID-19. Among the requirements, according to the government statement, is that passengers must complete UAE health precautions and preventative measures, and also any health requirements at the destination countries overseas.
Yes, and Emiratis and residents can now travel to the countries where the national carriers, Emirates, Etihad, Fly Dubai, and Air Arabia operate flights to, provided they adhere to precaution measures specified by the health authorities here in the UAE. But among those guidelines, let's say Emiratis must register first with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation's app Tawajudi to ensure that the health authorities can contact them in case of emergency. All must get tested for COVID-19 before flying as per the regulations in the destination country and must, of course, test negative. Travelers also need valid international healthcare coverage. And, of course, these guidelines are really meant to ensure the safety of travelers and fellow passengers and also airline, air and ground crew. But other guidelines also include that passengers over the age of 70 or with chronic health conditions are still advised not to travel.
Well, it's going to become a certificate situation because now wherever you want to go, you have to carry your Hassan app. You have to show how safe the situation is and how your health is at all times. And another aspect that we have seen is that for those who do go abroad, they need to carry their test results to come back.
Right.
Another set of results. So you got to understand this. Now, initially how it started was there was a decision saying that you can only travel if there's a legitimate reason to do so, which was a letter from your employer stating the reason of your travel, medical tests, and there were clear set guidelines. Now they've been removed straight after, just about like 24 to 48 hours later, saying, oh, you know what, you can travel for general reasons, it's fine. But then you still need to do those prerequisites. You need to get travel insurance. You need to register to Tawajudi service if you're a UAE national. And if you are an expat and traveling abroad, make sure that you follow the guidelines that were given to you before you left the country. And when you come back, you have to go to the accredited laboratories, which are in select cities only.
There will be quarantine when you come back. You have to quarantine yourself, right?
Yes.
In any case.
It depends on the situations, and it depends. Like the United Arab Emirates is regarded as in the safe list for many countries.
Right.
So when you do travel to those specific countries, you will be okay.
Yeah.
As long as you prove that you're negative. But upon return, it's case by case. So far, things can be updated anytime. Don't quote Morning Majlis on this and get us in trouble. But it is usually that when you land, you get a test done, and you're told if it's positive, 14 days home quarantine, and if it is negative, then take it easy. But yeah, it's just going to really make everyone think about the world of travel. Should they book?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it also gets us thinking about people coming in from abroad as well. I've read a news item recently. The British government, they maintained this ban on UK holidaymakers going to countries here in the Arabian Gulf. This was recently done after countries here were omitted from a list of nations that people can visit without a restriction. But countries here are still considered low risk by Britain's Department of Transport, and it is understood that people from the United Kingdom could travel to the UAE after the summer ends as well. So those are pretty interesting developments as we follow how countries around the world loosen air travel in an effort to save their airline industries from collapsing, in essence.
Yeah, that's true. Valid point over there.
Well, we are welcoming tourists on July 7th, so I think life is definitely coming back to normal. UAE is once again the touristy
hotspots.
The hotspot, of everyone. And I already have friends that already are making plans to come here rather than any other place.
Well, if you are one of those, get involved on the text lines 4215. Let us know your travel plans. Up next, we've got the world of business news, courtesy of Emmanuel Majali, and we shall return right after that.
Join the conversation with the Morning Majlis, Pulse 95.
Yes, join the conversation on the Morning Majlis. We are talking about a new big announcement when it comes to the US presidential elections, because one person who did promise long time ago that he's going to vow for the presidency or he's going to chase that presidential seat for the year 2020. This was a long time ago when he announced it, but he is sticking to his promise.
That's right. And the hip-hop powerhouse, a polarizing figure in terms of not just his music, but his public statements, tweeted just a couple hours ago that, quote, "We must now realize the promise of America by trusting God, unifying our vision, and building our future. I am running for president of the United States. Hashtag 2020 vision. It's not apparent how serious he is about running, but his wife, Kim Kardashian West, also retweeted and in fact replied to his tweet with a picture of the American flag, seemingly confirming his serious intention to run against President Donald Trump. It'll be interesting to see how this goes, doesn't it, Rania?
Yeah, it is. I mean, first of all, my favorite thing about Kanye West is his Yeezys. That's for sure. And politically, I don't know. He's been pretty controversial. He's always been controversial. He always makes really controversial moves. I remember last time he made a very controversial move was back in October 2018 when he went down to the Oval Office and he sat down with Donald Trump. And it was just as bizarre as one might have expected. He went down numerous tangents and had like several uninterrupted rants, as always. He said really odd things. He said like the Oval House had good energy and since before, he suggested that he might run and he will run for president after Donald Trump departs from the White House. So he kind of he was vocal about it ever since.
And certainly there's a precedent for an entertainment figure to run for president. We've seen, for instance, reality TV show star Donald Trump run for president and successfully do it. Also, Ronald Reagan was an actor in the past. It'll be interesting to see how this impacts the presidential election. Now, if Kanye West were to run for president, he would have to do it as an independent. But this, at this latest stage, is riddled with difficulties. The fact, for instance, that the deadline for voter registration had passed in massive states like Texas, like New York, would make it even more difficult for Kanye West to succeed in his presidential campaign. But one question on my mind is, should he run for president as an independent, how many votes would he siphon off Joe Biden or Donald Trump? I think that's a very interesting question.
He used to be a supporter of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he's now vying for the presidency, and there is no official declaration in terms of what paperwork he's filed. But in some states, they still remain to be open, and it is in November when we're seeing the elections to take place. Am I right in assuming that maybe Donald Trump could say, you know what, I've got a vacant spot off Mike Pence. We can maybe show him the door and make you vice president. Don't fight for presidency, but you could be vice president.
He won't back down. Kanye West will not back down. No. But you know who got who already is supporting him fully? Elon Musk.
Of course, and they were seen in a picture together, and Elon Musk saying, "You have my full support." Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure Kanye West is a very popular figure. He's got the support of many in the entertainment industry and fans of his music, and the absurdity as well of voting him for president at an increasingly polarized environment in the United States amid recent protests and a lack or an erosion in people's trust and faith in what the establishment had been doing, maybe even the response to the coronavirus. This could fuel the votes towards Kanye West as well. Maybe more young people will show up to the ballots. But I am really interested to see how this would just maybe take away potential Biden or Trump voters in the election and shape it moving forward.
Yep, of course. And I mean, from my perspective, the first time that not the first time, but one of the ways that I realized of Kanye West's controversial behavior was wasn't in some award ceremony where he turned up to Taylor Swift on stage.
Taylor Swift, yeah, because he thought Beyonce desered that award. I back him up. I back him up with this.
I'm not sure if it was scripted though, but it's just Kanye West has been in all sorts of limelight lately as well. But yeah, very interesting to see that he's been checked
into the hospital many times for mental breakdowns and stuff. So I don't know, is he in a stable position right now to run for president? That's a question.
It's also interesting how everything he does is an art gesture, almost like an avant-garde. I'm doing this because of the aesthetic value it brings to me. Some even say his support for Donald Trump was a giant work of art in and of itself. So you never know with Kanye West. We'll have to stay tuned to this development, see if he actually does it and follows through with it and registers as an independent candidate. We'll follow all those developments on the show.
President of the United States.
Kanye West. Do we see that?
Does it ring a bell?
I don't know. Does it sound...
Trump did it.
Trump did it. Trump did it. You know, nothing is impossible in the world of politics nowadays. Imran Khan is Prime Minister of Pakistan, and we've seen Ronald Reagan winning the elections in the United States back in the days as well. Well, stay tuned to Pulse 95. These discussions shall continue, and if you'd like to drop us a message, you can do so on our YouTube page as well. Pulse 95 Radio, we're streaming live, and do drop us a text 4215 for you to get involved in the discussions and have your say whether you would like to, or whether it does sound okay in New Year's that Kanye West could potentially become the president of the United States of America. Well, stay with us on the Morning Majlis. Up next, we shall be talking about how Sharjawi and Sharjawiyas of another area can get a free COVID-19 test. All this will be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis.
Pulse 95. Between local lines, notes from the Emirate.
Hello and welcome back on to the Morning Majlis. Yes, notes from Sharjah, and we have great news that was just announced just yesterday. Now, all residents of Sharjah Al Nahda can be tested for COVID-19 for free starting from today. And that is according to the Ministry of Health and Prevention, and that they will conduct the 10-day COVID-19 screening campaign in coordination with the Sharjah police. Now, residents of the area received an alert on their phones about the screening drive just yesterday, and the testing will be carried out at a mobile screening center set up in Al Nahda Park. This is where it's going to be. It's going to be from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. Now, those aged 18 and above will be screened only. They are required to bring their Emirates ID and also the SMS alert that they have received.
Certainly, Rania, and the UAE has been on quite the testing drive in the country. In total, in fact, since the beginning of the pandemic, it had conducted over 3.5 million coronavirus tests. And when you compare that to the number of positive tests at 50,000 at whole, it just shows you how much testing is being done. When the rate of positive coronavirus cases is 1.4%, that's well below the World Health Organization's benchmark of 10%, determining whether or not a country is doing enough testing. And the fact that the UAE is below that 10% by almost 9% just shows how much testing is being conducted. And part of the reason we're doing so many tests here and getting that accomplished is the fact that they're being provided for free. And in fact, the UAE is leading the world in terms of testing per million in a population. Looking at Abu Dhabi, for instance, mass testing campaigns have flattened the COVID-19 infection curve. In Musaffah alone, over 570,000 tests were conducted in order to fully contain the spread of the coronavirus, particularly among blue-collar laborers.
Yeah, and we've seen that 71,000 additional tests for coronavirus had been carried out yesterday in the United Arab Emirates. And now we've seen the new cases being at 716. And it's great to see how the sterilization drive was successful here in the country, as well as how this mass testing is going to benefit the residents of the Al Nahda area. And it is very important to see that and see how we are going to go forward with these plans. But so far, these are the details we do know. 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. in Al Nahda.
And you're saving 370 dirhams.
You're saving 370 dirhams. That is true.
It's a lot of money.
Al Nahda Park is where it's going to be taking place. So stay tuned to the Morning Majlis. Let us know if you are planning on getting that test done. 4215 is our text line for you to get involved with any of the discussions. Up next, we have some sporting headlines. But before that, it's all about the musical entertainment. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
Now, to celebrate the Independence Day of the United States, we caught up with His Excellency Philip Frayne. He is the Consul General of the United States of America, who's based here in Dubai and also serves for the Northern Emirates. We caught up with him about the importance of the 4th of July. We also touched upon a number of developments, particularly when it comes to the executive order and to the visa restrictions that were announced, as well as the outreach programs here in the Emirate of Sharjah. So we began this discussion. He was very kind enough to speak to us yesterday on the 4th of July. Today's his day off, but we had a conversation with him about the 4th of July, and we began by asking him about the significance of this day.
Pulse 95.
A very good morning. Thank you for joining us, Your Excellency Philip Frayne, the U.S. Consul General based here in the United Arab Emirates. Now, in terms of 4th of July, a very, very happy America Day of 4th of July, and talk to us about what this day means to you and what's happening.
Well, thank you very much, Abdul Karim, for inviting me on your program. And I want to say hello to all your listeners in Sharjah and throughout the UAE. The 4th of July is our national day. It's our national holiday. And we have been celebrating it now for 244 years. It is the day that the people in the colonies declared their independence from Great Britain to form their own country. Now, of course, we fought a war against Great Britain after that, but that's the day we consider the founding of the United States, July 4th, 1776.
Well, in terms of, it's going to be a very different celebration this year because we do understand in the diplomatic community, you invite the other ambassadors, you invite your business partners and local government officials as well, but it's going to be very different this time around. So what's in store with these celebrations?
Well, you're right, Abdul Karim. This year, the celebrations are much more subdued than in previous years, obviously because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We normally invite not just other diplomats and other businessmen, but people in the media, such as yourself. And we have a big party. This year, we're mostly doing our celebrating via the web, just as we're doing this interview. Mm-hmm. And in the United States, people are celebrating not by going out in large crowds to watch the fireworks, but frequently watching them at home or having their own fireworks celebrations. The sale of small-scale fireworks has gone up in the United States because a lot of families will be setting them off in their backyards with small groups because the large crowds obviously are not very safe these days. So it'll be a more subdued celebration, but people will still be celebrating with their normal barbecues and getting family together to watch their own backyard fireworks.
That certainly sounds very exciting. But in terms of the importance of this day, we believe on the 5th of July, it will be a day off for the consulates as well, which and with current technology, never off anyway. But in terms of what this day means for Americans and for the diplomatic community such as yours and the mission, talk to us about the significance of the 4th of July.
Well, it's an important day, obviously. It's the day that we put out our Declaration of Independence. And one of the things the Declaration says is that we believe that all men are created equal. And this is a concept, of course, that takes on special relevance now during the Black Lives Matter movement that we see in the United States. And it also talks about the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And, one of the things that struck me when I came to the UAE is that the UAE actually has a ministry of happiness. So it's a concept that we share with the UAE. And of course, America is famous for its liberties, its freedoms. So these are not, it's not just a day where we get off from work, but it's a day in which we celebrate the founding ideals of the United States.
So, Your Excellency, there was an element that we've come across. Your public affairs team have mentioned about the Hamilton play and how you've connected with some of your key partners here and given them the opportunity to catch the performance. Talk to us about that and how did it all come about?
Well, as your listeners may know, Abdul Karim, the Broadway musical Hamilton has been the biggest hit Broadway show of the past 4 or 5 years. It's been a tremendous success, and it celebrates the life of Alexander Hamilton, one of our founding fathers, kind of a self-made man. He was not an aristocrat or anything, but through dint of hard work in his brains, he became the Treasury Secretary. And so this play is about his life. Well, Disney has just made a movie out of this play. It's just come out, and we are offering an exclusive viewing to celebrate the 4th of July. We have offered an exclusive viewing to 100 of our contacts here in the UAE to watch it online. So we think that's a great outreach that we can do during this pandemic period.
Well, in terms of, let's move on to the connections with the United Arab Emirates. And we believe that you've been involved with a number of outreach programs here in Sharjah in particular. If you can talk to us about the importance of these connections with the individual emirates themselves, away from the federal level to the local governments in Sharjah, how important has that relationship been and what have we seen so far during your tenure?
Well, let me just start, Abdul Karim, by saying that our overall relationship with the UAE is very strong. We cooperate on so many different levels, on the political level, on the military level, economic level, cultural level, educational level. So we have a long and very tight relationship with the UAE on the federal level. At the U.S. consulate in Dubai, we cover not just Dubai, but Sharjah and the other northern Emirates. And we have tried hard during my time here and the time of my predecessors as well to reach out and make connections in those northern Emirates to reach out with cultural programs and educational programs. For example, last year I hosted a big reception to celebrate the Sharjah Book Fair, which is dear to my heart. I started my career working book fairs in Cairo many, many years ago. But we reach out to Sharjah in other ways as well. For example, we had a sports program last December in which we brought some former NBA basketball players to Sharjah, and they worked with coaches and about 500 students to run a clinic in Sharjah for a week to train the coaches and train the students on basketball. These are from former professional players in the United States. We also have programs that we do with the American University of Sharjah, with the University of Sharjah, with Nama, with Shira. So we try very hard to reach out, and also on promoting business and American businesses in Sharjah. We reach out to Shuruk. We have relationships with different entities in Sharjah. So we're trying very hard that not to focus solely on Dubai, but to reach out to Ras Al Khaimah, Sharjah, Fujairah, and the other Northern Emirates.
And certainly it's very important to cement those cultural and educational ties. Now, we've come across a number of changes recently. I think a lot of students, particularly in AUS, will be watching the developments and hearing about these developments very closely in terms of the student visas and the executive order limiting their issuance till the end of this year. To what extent is that affecting the morale of students to come over, and how far are we seeing that these restrictions will be in place, and in terms of your message to those students, aspiring students who want to study in America?
Well, I don't think the executive order deals with student visas. That it deals with more immigrant-type visas.
Okay.
But there is, you're right, a freeze on issuance of all visas right now, including student visas, due to the pandemic. That's not due to the executive order, but the pandemic has basically closed our consular sections. We are beginning to open up slowly, and I'm hopeful that in the next month or two, we'll start to see more opening up of the consular section and appointments for visas. I can't promise that we'll be starting to issue student visas right away, and I feel terrible for all the students who are admitted to American universities who may not get the visa in time for the fall semester. I'm sure that many American universities are making provisions for students who are admitted to study online until they are able to get the visa. But we need to get this pandemic under control before we open up fully and start issuing those student visas again.
Okay. Now, in terms of America as a great educational zone, what would you like to say to those students who are willing to apply for it, but because of the concerns surrounding the pandemic, they're a bit double-minded whether they should apply or not, those still in school, the opportunities that the United States has to offer them?
Well, I think it's well recognized, Abdul Karim, that the higher educational system in the United States is one of the great systems in the entire world. Whereas most countries have 2, 3, 4, maybe a half dozen great universities, the United States has literally dozens or hundreds of great universities and thousands of universities to choose from. And the advantage, I think, to an American education as opposed to some other countries is that you can get a very good academic grounding in whatever field you're interested in, whether that's engineering or archaeology or literature, whatever. But in addition to that, there are so many other things you can do at university. You can join a drama group, you can join a musical group, the local radio station, the local newspaper. There's all kinds of clubs you can join. So there's so much extra activity that you can get involved in to develop your personal interest at an American university. So I think that's one of the great advantages. Now, for fall admission, it's too late to apply in any case. I think we could apply now for winter admission or for fall 2021 admission. And I'm hopeful that we will get past this pandemic by then so that we'll be back to the normal course where students can apply and get their visas and go and enjoy all the benefits that an American education offers.
That's brilliant. And now, if I were to ask you about the economic developments and the future relations that you see in terms of rooms for developing and enhancing them further, because we've recently heard about the economic policy dialogue that was conducted. Despite the pandemic situation, we're still connected. So talk to us about where can we see this this relationship developing further, and what more could we expect from the US consulate in terms of improving those business ties and developing this further?
Well, one of the things that I'd like to focus on during my remaining time here is expanding the business relationship during Expo 2020. Expo 2020 will begin now, in October 2021, but I think it's going to be a great showcase for 6 months for American businessmen to come here to the Emirates to show their Emirati partners what they have to offer, to enter into partnerships with groups, and for Emiratis as well to come to our pavilion at the Expo and to show Americans what they have to offer in terms of investment opportunities. So I think that's going to be a great showcase for tightening those economic bonds between our two countries. The other thing I'd like to develop is a little more emphasis on getting the small and medium-sized American businesses to invest in the UAE. Right now we have a lot of large American companies here. We have Google, Microsoft, Apple, Pepsi-Cola, all the big names. But there are thousands and thousands of medium and small-sized American businesses which should be investing and partnering with Sharjah-based and UAE-based businesses as well.
Well, it's something to look forward to as well, and it's a great initiative of developing those SME with the investment opportunities here in the Emirates of Sharjah as well. But lastly, as we are celebrating the 4th of July, I have to ask you this, and a lot of people would also be quite intrigued. What's on the menu today when it comes to American food and celebrating the 4th of July, and how does it all unfold?
Well, a lot of people, as I previously mentioned, do their barbecues, and they barbecue steaks and they barbecue chicken, and corn on the cob is very big. Mm-hmm. We're a big corn producer. We love to eat corn on the cob. Of course, hamburgers and hot dogs and Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, but it'll be a day for barbecues throughout the United States.
Well, certainly something to look forward to. Thank you very much for joining us, and it has been a pleasure, and a happy 4th of July.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to participate in your program.
This is Pulse 95.